children, and welcome to part 2 of underrated 90s alternative bands. You guys really seem to like that first video, so, I thought I'd hit you with a follow-up using your suggestions that you left me. Pretty good idea, huh? So thanks for all of those recommendations in the comments, by the way. So what I did was make a list of all of them, and I'll be focusing on those bands periodically throughout this series. So think of this as a kind of viewer suggestion video. However, a lot of the groups were already on my potential list, so, great minds think alike, I guess. And I did include a band on this list that nobody seemed to mention. Oh, and I do other lists like this, by the way. Check out my obscure side projects video next, after you subscribe and like. And please leave me a comment, guys. All of those things help so much. So, let's get to it. 5 underrated 90s alternative bands, Part 2.
She thinks she missed the train to Mars. She's out back counting.
If ever was a band that probably should have been way bigger than they were, nobody would really deny that the Illinois' 90s powerhouse Hum is in the conversation. It really seems that these dudes were set up for greatness, and for a particular time, to particular youth, this particular song was everywhere. It's hard to put into scope, so many great bands in the 90s, yet it seemed to be a select few that really took over that genre. You know the bands I'm talking about. But in the shadows of groups like Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana were underrated bands like Hum. The sound is just so mid-90s. The style was there. I mean, they had a kick-ass debut record to boot. And even with their second record, Downward is Heavenward, it went to a lot of new places, we can say that much, doing what a band is supposed to do with their sophomore effort. However, that one didn't ring as heavy, and I can only assume it's because Stars, it's just one of those rock pop songs of the time that perfectly eased itself into, let's say, most grunge and nerd rock aesthetics with it, the proper hooks it has and the tones and, that's the things it takes to make a lasting single, let's put it like that. And for the other albums, they just didn't have a heavy hitter like Stars, I guess. I'm not sure what happened. Hum has inspired countless bands, even some stuff you never guess, which only goes to show not only their impact, but their success at playing with the genre. Their first recordings, they can only be described as punk rock, straight up. And with You'd Prefer an Astronaut, well, we got perhaps one of the greatest major label debuts of the 90s. And people know it. And people still really do like Hum. They successfully reunited with a string of shows, and the members themselves have many other side projects to keep you busy. But sadly, the days of seeing the band live, I guess, are just long gone. Yet, diving into their catalog will always bring something fresh and new, even decades after the fact. Okay. So I had to drop 90's to this list because I didn't really see anyone recommend them. But that's probably because they're not really a quote-unquote 90s band, as 2 of their albums were released post-2000s. But still, for all intents and purposes here, Drop 19's were really a 90s group. Their sound, their influence, while unique for an American group at the time, it was also becoming, one of the more popular subgenres of the era, being the blooming early 90s shoegaze scene, of course. And the group's definitive tracks all come from this time point, in my opinion. I swear that these guys are from Essex or something, but no, they're an American band from Boston, and they actually acknowledge their shoegaze status in the scene, as singer Greg Ackles quoted as saying, "We're the American outlier in a largely British scene." And it all makes sense. In my opinion, and many others, their first release, Delaware, is a bona fide shoegaze classic, up there with some of, if not all, the greats. Yet with their second release, National Coma, a lot of those heavy shoegaze elements were missing in favor of a more, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe, but kind of an upbeat indie rock sound. Kind of garage bandy, at this point they kind of sounded like the predecessor to the pop or even garage rock that would define the mainstream music scene maybe about a decade after that, I think it was. Think stuff like Dandy Warhols mixed with the Hives or something like that. It would be after the tour for National Coma when Ackle found himself the only original member and kind of called it quits till 2023 with the magnificent Hard Light. And even this year, 2025, we have brand new stuff from the guys, so I'll keep you posted. Curve might be the most interesting band on this list. I was always a fan, but I never looked deep into them, and in turn was quite surprised. Like, damn, I didn't even know they were a two-piece, or that they had heavy ties to the Eurythmics, or that they preceded their own sound in a way, just ahead of the curve, if you will. But when it came to 90s club pop, industrial, laden alternative rock, I mean, this is it. The one thing I was aware of was that, the band was always compared to Garbage, which, well, yeah, I get it. However, there are major differences in style and attitude, and I'd consider Garbage to be far more pop-based. Even though, Shirley Manson's early stuff wasn't really of that ilk, which I guess only goes to show further the influence Curve made on the British and even American indie scenes in the early to mid-90s. And Curve stayed busy, man, releasing upwards of 4 EPs and 3 albums in the 90s. And of course, the debut Doppelganger is a certified classic, damn it. Curve may be all but gone nowadays, with their last album of new material being released in 2002. But they are certainly not forgotten in the realm of acts who broke ground in the 90s. I admit it, when looking through recommendations from you guys, there were more than a few acts I had never heard of. Some of them were, questionable, yet some of them I absolutely fell in love with and was equal parts astonished that it somehow went under my radar, and with how much I actually did really fall in love with it. Which brings us to Seam. Again, no idea how I overlooked this group, but thanks to viewer Stephen Thompson 6230, well, I now have a new favorite band that's been broken up for decades. Thanks. The band would be founded by Soo Young Park, who I was aware of with groups like Bitch Magnet and a one-off album with the group EE. Another underrated group for different reasons. I mean, I got into the Asian Man Records stuff in the early 2000s after attending the Plea for Peace tour, where Thursday played, Common Rider, Cursive, Poison the Well, Lawrence Arms. Crazy show. You guys want to hear about that whole experience? Let me know down below. But again, I wasn't aware of Seam, and they really do seem to be far ahead of their time. Sorry, I'll stop with the stupid puns. These guys could easily be referred to as something like emo, early onset emo, as well as, I don't know, college rock straight up, or even, indie alternative. All those labels apply fully, not to their detriment, I may add. The low energy and gloomy takes on tracks and atmosphere, it's not something that was tearing up the landscape much in 1992. I mean, there were bands like, Sonic Youth and whatnot, but it was all still kind of very low key. And with Seam's debut Head Sparks, I mean, again, a certified classic in my opinion.
I don't mind things I won't forget.
Their stuff really tends to remind me of bands like Kitchens of Extinction at times, as well as stuff like Craft Spells that would come out years later, and somehow seem as one of the most unique bands of the genre. But I'd say they really cornered the college rock department with their particular take on the sound, having a more lasting sound than, typical college rock bands, if you will, and even more so than some non-typical college rock bands. A label that honestly seems to be a dirty word when referring to any music, but I love me some college rock. And Seam really, they just need to be heard. They feel so fresh somehow. And I, for one, plan on doing a lot more listening. Lush is definitely the band I miss most here. And, nearly everything I just said previously about every other group applies to Lush. Just a classic band. They may have got going in the 80s, but they left their scar on the music landscape in the 90s. Alright, that was the last one, and it didn't even really make sense. And if Curve was a female-fronted, hard-edged pop group taking more off of stuff like My Bloody Valentine, well then Lush would be almost the polar opposite of that spectrum. Think more of like a Sushi and the Banshees take on it all. Some really amazing female-fronted rock back in those days. Jesus. Lush would do it all. They would hit hard, and they would work with members of Cocteau Twins, and they hit the road landing some huge spots on some big tours. And they did the MTV thing, the Lollapalooza thing, and yeah, they were kind of thrown into the growing shoegaze scene, of course, but this time, it actually made a lot more sense, as Lush does exist in a moody, shoegazy atmosphere most times. Yet, they do venture out for some bubblegum from time to time. Bob Mould of Husker Du would produce their second album, and this is where the cracks started to show in the group. Let's just say it was a rough time recording it. In fact, the band always did kind of find themselves in tight spots, but somehow always seemed to be on top at the same time. And the volatile 90s, I suppose, right? That being said, though, in my opinion, none of Lush's musical output was damaged by any of this. It's all so good. That being said, though, yeah, their final work, Love Life, did go in different directions. Still amazing, but, of course, the band would reunite in 2016 with a new EP of material. Again, all so good, but there wasn't really any plans, to keep the band going after that. To get a more in-depth scope of Lush, I recommend you check out the lead singer's autobiography, Fingers Crossed. I really am into Lush, and I was thinking of doing like a separate little video of these guys. So let me know if you want to see that down below. Well, there you have it. 5 more underrated 90s alternative bands. Let me know what you think in the comments, and of course, leave me suggestions for the next one. I think for my next installment, I'm going to focus on some 90s alternative bands that I either completely forgot about or never even heard of in the first place. That one should be fun. Again, in the meantime, guys, check out my other stuff. You will definitely like this one, Obscure Side Projects. Or if you're into weird movies and whatnot, check out this one. Please make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell after you like this video. I cannot stress how important all of that is. See ya in the 90s.